Welcome to I Am Unveiled. This isn't just a Bible study series, it's a return to the hidden language behind the Word, where Scripture meets symbolism, root meaning, and metaphysical truth. Before the name I Am was revealed, before the bush burned without being consumed, there was a forgotten people, not a race, but an awareness. This is not just a story of bondage, it is the story of you. When the form became your master and your deeper self was forgotten. This is Exodus. Chapter 1.
These are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob, each with his household: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. All the offspring of Jacob were 70 persons. Joseph was already in Egypt.
This isn't a census. It's a map of consciousness descending. Each name represents a spiritual aspect within you. Faculties of perception, memory, love, discipline, creativity. All now entering Egypt, the symbolic realm of form, matter, constraint. Israel means God prevails, the divine self, but it enters as Jacob, the grasping mind or supplanter, the one who wrestles to become. And so, 70 descend. 70, the number of completeness, divine wholeness fragmenting into multiplicity. This is the moment your higher awareness takes on identity.
Then Joseph died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. But the descendants of Israel were fruitful and increased greatly. They multiplied and grew exceedingly strong, so that the land was filled with them. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, "Behold, the people of the sons of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply, and if war befall us, they join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land." Therefore they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with heavy burdens, and they built for Pharaoh store cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied, and the more they spread abroad. And the Egyptians were in dread of the people of Israel. So they made the people of Israel serve with rigor, and made their lives bitter with hard service, in mortar and brick, and in all kinds of work in the field. In all their work, they made them serve with rigor.
Joseph, the imaginer, the preserver of vision, dies. And with him, the memory of divine origin begins to fade. The people of Israel multiply, not just physically, but energetically. Awareness expands within the unconscious system of form. And when the ego senses growth, it responds with fear. A new Pharaoh rises, one who knew not Joseph. This is not just a change in dynasty, it is a shift in your inner rulership. A state of consciousness now governs that has no knowledge of vision, only survival. And so, your spiritual essence becomes enslaved to outer demands. You build store cities, structures of identity, ego achievement, defense. You trade presence for production. And the more your inner life tries to expand, the heavier the system becomes. This is bondage not by chains, but by attention surrendered to fear.
Then the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shiphrah, and the other Puah, "When you serve as midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the birth stool, if it is a son, you shall kill him. But if it is a daughter, she shall live." But the midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but let the male children live. So the king of Egypt called the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this, and let the male children live?" The midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for they are vigorous and are delivered before the midwife comes to them." So God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew very strong. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families. Then Pharaoh commanded all his people, "Every son that is born to the Hebrews you shall cast into the Nile, but you shall let every daughter live."
The ruler within, the Pharaoh, knows he cannot stop your multiplication. So now he targets the next stage, birth. The command is precise: kill the males, let the females live. In Hebrew, male, zakar, shares its root with the word for remembering. To kill the males is to destroy the capacity to remember your true identity. But the midwives, those inner forces of spiritual integrity, fear God more than Pharaoh. They allow remembrance to live. These women, Shiphrah and Puah, are not just historical helpers. They are archetypes of resistance to forgetting. Shiphrah means brightness. Puah means splendor or utterance. When the soul remembers, even in fear, the deliverer is preserved in silence. But Pharaoh panics again, and now he extends the command: throw every son into the river. This is an attempt to drown remembrance in the unconscious, to cast divine memory back into the flow of forgetfulness. But it's too late. The inner deliverer is already alive, and no river can wash him away. Closing reflection. For Chapter 1, something in you was fruitful, but a new voice rose, one that did not know your dreamer. It made you serve, perform, survive. And when your spirit still multiplied, it tried to kill your remembering, but it failed. Chapter 2.
Now a man from the house of Levi went and took to wife a daughter of Levi. The woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could not hide him any longer, she took for him a basket made of bulrushes and daubed it with bitumen and pitch. And she put the child in it and placed it among the reeds at the river's brink. And his sister stood at a distance to know what would be done to him. Now the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked beside the river. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her maid to fetch it. When she opened it, she saw the child, and lo, the baby was crying. She took pity on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call you a nurse from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the girl went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she named him Moses, for she said, "Because I drew him out of the water."
This child is not just Moses. He is the memory of your deliverance. Born of Levi, joined to priesthood and remembrance, but hidden because the world isn't ready for him. You aren't ready for him, so you place him in a teva, an ark, just as Noah once did. You release him into the flow of uncertainty, trusting that consciousness will preserve what ego tries to drown. And it's Pharaoh's daughter, the extension of the ego, that finds him. She doesn't recognize who he truly is. But something in her still yields to love. The divine is raised within the very house that once enslaved it. Even in bondage, God hides in plain sight.
One day, when Moses had grown up, he went out to his people and looked on their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his people. He looked this way and that, and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. When he went out the next day, behold, 2 Hebrews were struggling together, and he said to the man that did the wrong, "Why do you strike your fellow?" He answered, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you mean to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, "Surely the thing is known." When Pharaoh heard of it, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and stayed in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. The shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. When they came to their father Reuel, he said, "How is it that you have come so soon today?" They said, "An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and even drew water for us, and watered the flock." He said to his daughters, "And where is he? Why have you left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread." And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses his daughter, Zipporah. She bore a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, "I have been a sojourner in a foreign land."
Moses sees suffering, and something in him awakens. But it's still early. The power is premature. He acts from impulse, not clarity. He kills not just an Egyptian, but part of himself. This is what happens when awakening arrives before surrender, when truth is known intellectually but not lived spiritually. So he flees into Midian, a land of strife, ambiguity, in-betweenness. The wilderness between what was and what will be. There he draws water. He defends feminine essence. 7 daughters, fullness of receptivity. He meets Zipporah, the bird, the soul's messenger, and he names his son Gershom, stranger there, because that's what he's become. A stranger in his own awareness, awakened, but not yet aligned.
In the course of those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the people of Israel groaned under their bondage and cried out for help. And their cry under bondage came up to God. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God saw the people of Israel, and God knew their condition.
The old Pharaoh dies. A moment of shift, and something begins to stir. Not action, not speech, groaning. This is not noise. This is the soul itself beginning to remember. The children of Israel, your inner potentials, are buried in bondage, but deep beneath form, a vibration rises, a cry that doesn't come from lips, but from being. And what does God do? He hears, he remembers, he sees, he knows. This is not the start of God's awareness. It is the return of yours. God is the still I am, always present. But now, the cry of awareness rises high enough to collapse the veil. This is the doorway. Closing reflection for Chapter 2. What part of you has groaned without language? Have you mistaken God's silence for absence or for listening? What covenant is your life calling back into awareness? Chapter 3.
Now Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and lo, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. And Moses said, "I will turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt." When the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "Here am I." Then he said, "Do not come near. Put off your shoes from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground." And he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God.
Moses is not in Egypt. He is not in Midian. He is in the wilderness, that inner space where everything external collapses. He is tending sheep, guiding thought patterns, and he reaches Horeb, a mountain of dryness, but also of clarity, and then a flame. Not one that destroys, but one that reveals. This is the signal you're not being burned. You're being seen. And when Moses turns aside, when awareness turns inward, God speaks, not before. When you observe the mystery, it observes you. And what does he say? "Moses, Moses twice. To call the outer and inner man into unity. Remove your shoes, let go of identity. You're standing where God always was.
Then the Lord said, I have seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And now, behold, the cry of the people of Israel has come to me, and I have seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppressed them. Come, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring forth my people, the sons of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the sons of Israel out of Egypt? He said, But I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that I have sent you. When you have brought forth the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God upon this mountain.
God says, I have seen, I have heard, I know, I have come down. This is not a distant being descending from a higher realm. This is awareness entering the very condition it once watched. The cry, the vibration from chapter 2, has collapsed the distance, and the observer becomes the participant. But how does God deliver? Not with thunder, not with angels. He says, I will send you. This is how liberation begins. You awaken to the truth that you are the one sent. To free the parts of you still in bondage, Moses resists. Who am I? And God answers, I will be with you. No qualifications, no proof, only presence. The sign won't be now. The sign will be after. This is the essence of faith, to move before it's visible, to act while still uncertain. You don't become the deliverer by being ready. You become the deliverer by obeying the cry.
Then Moses said to God, If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, Say this to the people of Israel, The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, has appeared to me, saying, I have observed you and what has been done to you in Egypt. And I promise that I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. And they will hearken to your voice. And you and the elders of Israel shall go to the king of Egypt and say to him, The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. And now we pray you, let us go a 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. So I will stretch out my hand and smite Egypt with all the wonders which I will do in it. After that, he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And when you go, you shall not go empty, but each woman shall ask of her neighbor and of her who sojourns in her house, jewelry of silver and of gold, and clothing, and you shall put them on your sons and on your daughters. Thus you shall despoil the Egyptians.
Moses asked the question we all ask. What is your name? Who are you really? What force is behind all of this? And the answer is not a title. It is not a doctrine. It is not a being. It is a state. I am that I am. In Hebrew, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. I will be what I will be. Consciousness declaring itself as becoming. This is the divine revelation not as theology, but as awareness. As the only self that truly exists. Say to the people, I am has sent me. The name is not to be understood. It is to be assumed. You are sent by what you are. And then, for their sake, he gives the name they will know. Yahweh, he is. When speaking from self, I am. When speaking about self, he is. The rest of the instruction is the outworking. But the core has been given. This is your name forever. This is how you are to be remembered. And so, the journey doesn't begin with escape. It begins with identification. You are not leaving Egypt to find God. You are leaving Egypt because God has remembered himself in you. Closing reflection. For chapter 3, you've asked, who are you? But now, you must ask, who am I? And the answer will not come in words, it will come in flame. If this breakdown stirred something deeper in you, like, share, and leave a comment with the next scripture you want us to decode. This is your journey too. Make your voice part of it.